Welcome back, everybody. Try as we might, we simply cannot avoid the amount of Blizzard Entertainment news that is going on this week. Please, Blizzard, slow down, give us a break. It was really fun a few weeks ago, and we got to spread our wings a bit. But today, we've got to talk about some new leaks. Leaks for Odyssey, which is Blizzard's upcoming game. And that's the interesting thing with Odyssey. It's them spreading their wings and trying something a bit different. And they've tried that before, it just never actually really worked as well. I mean, the one you'll know of it is, of course, StarCraft Ghost. But there's also the StarCraft big-scale shooter game that was like Battlefield that got cancelled. There was the first version of Diablo 4, which was a over-the-shoulder perspective action game. Wouldn't that have been pretty damn different? So they've been trying to do new things. And what's interesting is that Blizzard's untitled survival game had been in development, per some of the the leaks and what we now have came to understand. It had been in development for perhaps around 5 years.
It's a long ass time.
Yeah. Now, that will have, of course, been a very small exploratory team at the beginning. That will slowly get larger. I think now to the point where they're more scaling up an actual production team for that game. But it's just interesting because that period of time, 5 years ago, internally, Blizzard had a survival game on the go. They had some form, I've heard of some form of massive sort of like action game. I think that might be the StarCraft Battlefield game. They had a version of Diablo that was an over-the-shoulder action RPG. I mean, imagine what it would have been like if all their bets paid off. But no, it did not seem that many of those bets paid off. Many mobile games got cancelled to the incubation unit. Many larger AAA, you would say, games were cancelled so that Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4 could get the development support that they would end up needing to actually come out, which of course is all happening within the next 6 to 9 months from you hearing me right now. So these leaks for the survival game, interesting enough, actually. I'd liked seeing, the survival genre. It's one where, polish sometimes isn't always there, right? And one of the things that Blizzard, at least traditionally, had been known for is just having that level of flair and polish and things just being quite satisfying. So to see a full Blizzard take on that would be interesting. So here's what we've learned. This is from Jez Corden on the Xbox 2 podcast. Thankfully, everything's been collated. Cheers, Reddit. But we've learned something. So number one, the code name is Odyssey. This was then confirmed by Jason Schreier, which does, I think, add some authenticity to the rest of the leak. Of course, Jez Corden, one of the people, I don't expect you to remember the names of every single leaker out there, but he's one of the leakers.
Jez has a lot of contacts with Xbox and Blizzard, to the point where there's definitely he definitely said more than he should have on this podcast because he was drunk, and that was very interesting, including leaking the next Hearthstone expansion. And it's
what's that?
It's a Death Knight class is being added, and it's like all around that, which is probably gonna work really well with Wrath being classic and stuff, and getting that kind of feel all together. So, but then he did just say that, and then all this stuff with Odyssey, you're like, yeah, maybe we should have drunk podcasts with people who know things more often.
Yeah,
be enjoyable.
So the graphical style apparently looks like Everwild. You might have forgotten Everwild. It had extremely gorgeous and impressive looking trailers, but no gameplay. It's only concept trailers. That is the new game from Rare. Of course, Rare, they are riding high off the tremendous success of Sea of Thieves. As for this project, I think with Everwild, it is what you would expect. They really didn't have anything in the gameplay front properly worked out by the time that concept trailer released. Let's very much hope that has changed. But at least off the back of Sea of Thieves, I'm confident that Rare can probably pull off something really good. So this game is modeled as a first-person fairy tale survival game with building mechanics. And I've got to say, fairy tale, building mechanics, Blizzard's pretty damn incredible mastery of art.
You can imagine it,
I could imagine players creating very cool things. I could imagine that being very exciting. Of course, fairy tale, that can mean many different things. There are the lighter takes in fairy tales, that maybe some of us saw as kids, and then there are the darker takes in fairy tales that maybe still some of us saw as kids.
And then there are also the modern movie reboots of fairy tales, such as Hansel and Gretel, which we shouldn't talk about, and hopefully that's not one of the aesthetics, because God, that's awful. Remember they did that for a while? Just, here's Fairy Tales, we'll do modern dark reboots. God, what a nightmare.
Thanks. I'd forgotten about that entirely.
Yeah, well, this is it, right? You just have to, when you keep the entirety of media trends in your brain when trying to think about aesthetics and think about what games are going to do next, what awful nightmare world will they invent next for us to suffer in, and you just kind of you have to keep all those in mind and remember. It's not good.
Oh dear. Yeah. Oh dear. Well, the game is going to be multiplayer. It's going to have internal trading in a more similar manner to Fallout 76, where players can sell what they craft. One of the ideas, very basic fantasy, is just, hey, I'm going to be the potion seller. Can you handle my potions? Give me some gold, right? So, nice. Get a little bit of an emergent player economy, that sort of thing going on. There's some evidence, though, as well, of machinery, sort of fantasy, sort of magic punk, maybe steampunk sort of style, right? So again, all looking interesting to me. A comparison is being drawn to Fable Legends, in particular for the aesthetics, which, I'd say is no bad thing, right? And here's the thing that's different for Blizzard Entertainment, and kind of shows they're no longer chasing the old dream.
Yes, of
It was
course.
the thing that really damaged Blizzard, was saying, hey, let's spend 70 million trying to make the follow-up to World of Warcraft.
70 million so little now too, these days.
Yeah, of course, Project Titan was pretty rough. If Overwatch didn't happen, a lot of people will have really felt that the back of their career was broken, having put so much time into Titan. And that's the thing, Odyssey is not going to be an MMO.
Good.
Now, as we've covered in the gaming channel, what the hell does MMO even mean these days anyway? But it's not going to be an MMO. I think what this could potentially mean is something to do with server-based persistence. Because at least in Destiny and Warframe, you know what I mean, right? Versus being more of a server-based game. Now, obviously, you do have games like Valheim, where your character can kind of do stuff between servers, I believe.
Yes.
But, your sort of main progress is going to be on your actual server with all the things that you've made. So instead, it is actually going to be a traditional survival game with multiplayer elements, much like, say, Ark Survival Evolved. In particular, Jez says he saw footage with bows, with arrows, with lots of magic. He did say this footage was a few months old, though, so it all is obviously subject to change. And the large thing is, this is not connected to Warcraft, StarCraft, or any existing Blizzard IP. This is new IP.
Yep. I also said, the quote's not here, but he also said it looks, the quote's in the thumbnail, but said looks fucking amazing. Those are literally what he said. He said looks amazing and then added the F word later on when he repeated himself, as he was clearly the blood alcohol level rising. But very much he's pretty pumped on it. And I think I don't really know his track record with what kind of games he likes, but he seems to have pretty good taste because I listened to the rest of the podcast when I was there, and he started, it was Soul Hackers 2. I started talking about Soul Hackers 2 being made in Unity. I was like, yeah, also Soul Hackers 2 is like a great game. Right? Okay, you've good taste then. Okay, so maybe that's something to go by. But the thing that kind of gets me is obviously you think about this, you go, well, it's Blizzard, they can't make shit anymore. They're dead. Awful, terrible game. This will be a shitty Ark clone. It'll never release, and who cares, because Blizzard are bad now. Blizzard bad now. That's the narrative, and rightfully so. But to me, it's the thing I'm thinking about is very much, and we had this conversation for honestly far too long in the office, but the idea of what Overwatch kind of did and what Overwatch was. In hindsight, there's a lot wrong with it, but if you were in video games in 2016, you felt Overwatch. The cultural ripples in a bunch of different circles of what Overwatch did to a specific culture of video games, especially like the online kind of Discord small group setting stuff, you could still feel that. People still just sit and play Overwatch because it's so perfect for that kind of vibe, that hero shooter thing. They basically were like, we just made TF2, but modern and obviously with all of that extreme Blizzard polish, because that game feels genuinely incredible. It does. Still does. It balance problems and kind of design problems are there, but the actual gameplay feels absolutely fantastic. And that's the one thing that survival games are kind of getting. Especially now, there's a lot of newer survival games that are mechanically really clean, mechanically well designed, but there's nothing that's holy shit. Yeah. There's nothing that is the Overwatch of survival games, and I feel like that's basically what I think they're setting out to do.
You think about Valheim.
Yeah.
Valheim was simple and limited in a really smart way. It did not try to offer the world. It didn't try to do everything. It tried to simplify what it could and offer this just very, I guess, simple, easy to get into experience that had a bunch to do. And it was fantastic for that. Now, think about the combat design of Valheim. Very simple.
Yeah.
Now, it's fine. Served its purpose because it's in a broad context and fantasy that you really care about. Blizzard can tap into, like, where Blizzard is at their best is tapping into the exact same thing that Valheim did.
Yeah.
Just that they can bring their general prowess when it comes to art, when it comes to gameplay design.
Not even just gameplay design, but like the mechanical execution of how their engine feels. Because Overwatch is still one of the like most. I'm maybe not sure like Overwatch 2 because I didn't play much of the beta, but initially I was like, oh yeah, you can tell this game was built from the ground up by genuinely expert like gameplay engineers. This is really, really good. This is really crispy. They even like how bug free was Overwatch in general for a long time.
Right.
You're like, this is genuinely an excellent product, no matter what you kind of thought of it. It's like, no, this is just a quality product in a way we don't get very often, especially in AAA. Obviously, because it was bounded, that worked.
I mean, I bought Battleborn. What was it, Battleborn? No. The
Gearbox Battleborn.
The Randy Pitchford one.
Yeah, Battleborn, yeah. Not the same, like.
Yeah. It's like, it's all of the intangibles.
Yeah.
Blizzard got all of the intangibles that you just feel as a player. They got them right in a way that Battleborn, I can tell you, did not.
And honestly, a lot of games don't.
Yeah.
So that's the thing where to me, it's like this for that, but for survival games is like, that's never really happened. That's yet to happen.
How many people got into a shooter for the first time because of Overwatch? The answer, by the way, is a humongous number of people.
An obscene amount, and that's because they realize, obviously, like that's changing because Overwatch's audience is narrowing down and getting tighter because of player bleed off and different interests in different games and competition and stuff.
Yeah, optimize around the people who are left.
Yeah, which then that means you see Overwatch 2's design change to be a little bit more higher skill ceiling for DPS players, which is a lot more about obviously all of the same kind of principles of positioning, movement, understanding the game flow, and all that game sense is still there, but aiming and being able to literally click someone in the head is more important by comparison now versus when there was loads of CC and stuff like that. And that's the idea of they can what they will aim for is, because when I say basically the Overwatch of Ark Survival Evolved, I don't just mean really super clean gameplay or super really nice like Blizzard art style in this fairy tale aesthetic. It's kind of the, like you say, it's like the intangibles of they will be able to get people, assuming they have the same quality level that they managed to get Overwatch with, which is arguably possible because we haven't seen them actually release a full game in a long time. Diablo 4's testing well and stuff, so we'll have to see. I assume they have all of those devs and there's still competent devs. They seem to have just more managerial problems. So as long as those don't manifest and good devs are left to make a good game, then this will be the kind of game that can go, well, theoretically, you've always been kind of interested in survival games, but say they've had the PvP-ism's a little bit too harsh or too rough. There's too much possibility for negative experience, or it mechanically didn't feel all that clean, or it just wasn't super intuitive for you. And also maybe you're a Blizzard gamer, so you don't really go to Steam all that often for those kind of games. They'll be able to capture this wider audience and go, okay, almost in the same sense of with basically making a mainstream survival game that is all of the stuff that puts mainstream players off from playing those games. Not remove those mechanics, remove the fact that you have punishments for failing and stuff like that, but reframe and kind of go, how can we distill the essence of this feeling, but remove all of the rough edges that make people go, make basically the average almost non-gamer who only plays Blizzard titles or only plays the odd thing to actually have this cultural experience, go, oh, I like this one. And that'll be all the intangibles. It's just, this game feels really good. This game runs really well on potatoes. It runs well. It looks beautiful on a high-end PC. But there's nothing telling them to stop playing. It's just everything that was great about Overwatch, but not individually, but from a product perspective, transplanted onto a survival game. And you're like, well, you can see as soon as you get some of the survival game audience, because they'll still stick to Rust, they'll stick to the shit that just fucks them up because they're masochistic players a lot of the time, or sadistic players who love like the PvP stuff. But then you got that audience. As long as you get some of them, like they did with Overwatch, they get a lot of shooter players because it was a cultural phenomenon. Do that, and also pull in the Blizzard audience to go, hey, here's a survival game. We've got super clean mechanics. Everything's like really enjoyable and like perfectly done. The gameplay loop is wonderful, and that's the thing, because he's talking about you, like the footage you saw, Jez, you pick up a bow pretty early, and it's first person. So it's like, you can see how they immediately go, we've got a really traditional bow-based first-person shooting combat loop in the survival game, and then the survival maybe takes a back seat for some players because the mechanics are that good, and you kind of have this whole, just an overall experience of, if Blizzard do this right, this could genuinely be, we've done Overwatch again, but with a different genre that's like bigger than like hero shooters even more, because Overwatch kind of started that.
And then you think, okay, is this going to be an Overwatch or HOTS? And I think
HOTS,
it's a different market. It's a different market where you don't really see Valheims happening within the MOBA space. It's like very entrenched into LoL and Dota. So I think there's significantly more potential here.
Yeah, people are always literally flicking between survival games as well, like all the time.
I mean, you see it in Steam. Yeah. Now, the other thing here is that this game will come out in an extremely different context because, and like actually, I think Phil Spencer like recently either tweeted or made a statement, because I saw it on my phone when I checked it just before recording, that good conversations are happening, things are going at a good pace, whatever.
Well, there's actually there's a Bloomberg article with a big interview with him dropping tonight. That's what it is.
So it seems anyway that the acquisition is going to be going through. Right? Like, Phil was obviously not going to Bloomberg and talking about all the great exclusives he's happy to have. He was talking about, more cross-platform, less, all those things that if, there's going to be regulators looking at you, you should say. So the thing is, Activision Blizzard will be an arm of Xbox. And that means it's going to be day and date Game Pass on PC, likely, which will be interesting if it also has a Battle.net integration. But, I mean, that's a problem they can get around very easily. They have developers. It's going to be there on Xbox and all the millions of Xboxes, all those Series S's that have sold, right? And, of course, it's a Blizzard game. Generally, optimization, I mean, certainly if you look at Overwatch, like, optimization's pretty good. I imagine it'll run pretty well. So, this just gives them a pretty damn massive opportunity. Also worth thinking about Grounded and State of Decay, which are both now in Microsoft-owned studios. We also, I mean, you've got No Man's Sky, My Time at Portia, Slime Rancher, Stardew, Long Dark, Trailmakers, Forager, Astroneer, loads more stuff like that, on Game Pass. There's more to come as well. There's Nightingale from Inflection, who are the ex-BioWare Edmonton developers, I believe.
There's so many like games, it's genuinely hard to keep track of, even if it's like what you do for like your life. It's still easy to forget to get so many of them.
I guess the thing is, if you look at what I'm looking at right now, which is just that concept art that we've seen before, it's like, okay, isekai, whatever. Maybe people will say that's a bit sort of played at this stage. But think about why people are sometimes hungry for a survival game, or at least that there's a strong fantasy there. Think about what's currently being offered in the survival game market and how much of it can feel kind of visual presentation wise like an Arma 3 mod.
Yeah.
And then you look at this and you think about what they're probably going to be able to pull off in terms of general fantasy, look, feel, controls, UI, atmosphere, sound, all of those things. If they still have got what made Overwatch come out,
deep buried somewhere deep within the core, hopefully protected from all of the other shit that's going on.
Yeah. If they still have that, then maybe 2024, maybe 25, perhaps 24.
Maybe 24.
Maybe it could be a pretty big year, because when we think about it, when we go to this time next year, Dragonflight will be out and in its service period. Diablo 4 will be out and probably halfway through its first season. Overwatch 2 will be in its 8 millionth season, given how aggressive.
Theoretically.
Yeah, and Overwatch 2 PvE will be out. It will be at the stage where people will be kind of thinking, oh, okay, it's August 2023. BlizzCon in 2 months? When's BlizzCon? Is this when Blizzard decide, hey, it's time for BlizzCon again?
Yeah.
It's time to unveil our new survival game. Change it from Untitled to Title Survival Game. And actually say, hey, we have more in the tank. Here's the new survival game. Here's a preview of what our live service is going to look like for Diablo 4. Hey, it's going to be awesome. We're going to make good on that. Hey, here's the next WoW expansion. Like, that is the narrative that they want to weave. So, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. That's basically it. I know that
Actually,
it's...
just had one more thought, which is, and I don't know how true this is because I don't play a whole pile of survival games, right? But are there any, and I'm actually literally just asking, are there any survival games that don't have like a unforgiving or aspirational world? Are there any survival games that are a little closer to the, maybe this isn't what they'll go for, but like the fairy tale cottage core kind of aesthetic, where it's still a little bit, there's still danger in the world, but it's a pleasant world, a nice one to exist in?
Palia.
Palia?
Is it Palia?
Is it out? No?
Oh, no.
Yeah, so it's like, is that an aesthetic that no one has actually sat down and went, yeah? Because people think of Rust, because people think of H1Z1, because the people, like, you know, the armor mods, and people go, yeah, survival games are about being alone in a fucking nightmare and surviving.
5 naked men with pieces of wood start grunting at you through proximity-based voice chat and you run away.
Yeah, but where, like, is there a version of that for, and this is what I was talking about earlier, when it's like the different audience.
Yeah.
Is it going to be, hey, do you want to, maybe it's like a survival game, obviously, but hey, instead of, do you want to, you know, go fucking teeth and knuckle in the woods in this fairy tale land, killing all these dark evil creatures to survive? Or is it going to be trying to actually just exist in this very nice world, set up your own little corner of the fairy tale woods, you're enjoying yourself, you're enjoying life, there's allies for you to trade with because you can craft and all that stuff, and when you craft you go to the fairy shop and trade potions, and then maybe you have to take down a corrupted bear in the woods, but generally you're actually just vibing more than struggling. And obviously, you know, depends on who you are. Some people go, struggle, yes, Sisyphus was happy with that boulder, that's what it is to be a man. And then there's other people going, man, I want to chill. I want to chill in a nice place. And those second people don't have a survival game for them just yet. As far as I'm aware, I may be wrong. Yeah. But that's the thing where that's like what we were talking about a long time ago on the channel, or a decent time ago, about like the soul of a game, or the actually making games that people instinctively emotionally want. And that's like a fucking gaping hole in the market.
Yeah, because if Ubisoft...
And that's probably what they're going to do.
If Ubisoft did this,
yeah,
it would just be a more polished version of exactly what you would expect from this genre.
Tom Clancy's Rust.
When they're doing it, they're trying to, it seems, be transformative in player fantasy in a way that drastically makes the game more approachable and expands the audience.
And that's why
it is exactly what they did with World of Warcraft to the MMO genre. It's exactly what they did in Overwatch. No doubt that's exactly what they want to do here. So there you go. That's what to look out for the longer term future of Blizzard Entertainment. Let me know what you think. Matt, that's it for us today, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, can't believe we just, after wrecking Blizzard in 3 or 4 videos this week, we're like, here's some positive aspiration.
Madness. It's almost as if we're going to talk about the things that happened and try to not be that biased.
Yeah. So is this shilling or is it balance? Who knows?
We'll leave that to you.